it was your hand or the hand of God?
Maradona was something else.
Diego Maradona
was able to manipulate the ball a bit like Messi does now.
Obviously he had many problems off the field.
A hero or a villain?
I've still not forgiven Diego Maradona.
He's hurting England again here. It's a brilliant run. It's one of the world.
You know, he was a crazy player, but even more crazy off the field.
I never actually knew the real Diego.
He was the definition of work hard, play hard. He took coke in the Pope's bathroom. He took coke on the pitch. He visited Escobar's prison. He had trouble with the mob. I mean, this guy was nuts.
His time in Naples changed him. I mean, they loved him. He was their savior when he couldn't save himself.
Behind the genius, behind the controversies, lies a story about a boy from Buenos Aires who became a god, the devil, and everything in between.
Today, the world lost one of its greatest sporting talents, a man whose career was marked by incredible highs and desperate lows. Diego Maradona passed away from a heart attack overnight, aged 60.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. And Maradona, of course, was a genius on the pitch. He was revered as a footballing god by many, one of the greatest ever to play the beautiful game. But there was a dark side to him, his career plagued as much by scandal as glory.
But wait, let's go back to the very start. Diego Armando Maradona was born October 30th, 1960 in Villa Fiorita, a densely populated suburb in Buenos Aires. In a house buzzing with the noise of 8 siblings, young Diego was the 5th child, and the Maradonas faced the same challenges as many families in Villa Fiorito, battling poverty and often struggling to make ends meet. Therefore, his father, Diego Maradona Sr., worked long hours laying bricks and at the local factory. Diego's early exposure to football was thanks to a cherished gift, a soccer ball from his cousin Beto Zarate on his 3rd birthday. That ball was more than just a toy, it became a companion. Young Diego would sleep with it, fearful it would be taken away. And sometimes it was, but only momentarily, by his mother, Dalma. She had dreams of her son in a more stable profession, like accounting, but even she couldn't deny Diego's raw talent and passion for the sport. Even Don Diego, despite his initial reservations, recognized the promise in his son. He once remarked, "I shined his boots, knowing he'd outshine many on the field." Pelé, the great Pelé, faded from my mind as I watched Diego play. Diego's talent did not go unnoticed. At just 12, he joined Los Cebolitas, and by 15, he was scouted for Argentinos juniors, marking the start of a professional journey that would see him become one of football's greatest. After winning the league title with Boca Juniors in 1981, huge European clubs came knocking at the door. This led to a transfer to FC Barcelona in 1982. His stint in Barcelona, marked by both dazzling displays and off-field controversies, was a mixed bag. Injuries plagued Diego early on. In just his 3rd appearance for the club, a nasty tackle by Athletic Bilbao's Andoni Goicoechea, infamously known as the Butcher of Bilbao, left Maradona with a broken ankle. While recovering, Diego was introduced to a world that would shadow his illustrious career, the world of drugs. The party scene of Barcelona in the early 80s was vibrant, and Diego, who was seeking relief and a distraction from his pressures, found himself in the midst of it. His first brush with cocaine, a drug that would later dominate headlines alongside his football, began here. Although most of his time spent in the Barca club would either be on the sidelines or in the nightclub, Diego managed to put up some good numbers. And in the 1984 Copa del Rey final against Athletic Bilbao, Maradona was fit to play. This game was a heated rematch between the two clubs as Diego sought out for revenge for the injury they caused 2 years earlier. The final whistle saw a brawl erupt, with Maradona in full focus. This incident was the last straw in a string of controversies that ended his stint at the Catalan club, and Diego found himself setting sail for Italy. In 1984, Napoli signed Diego for a staggering $10.5 million, a world record fee at the time and a testament to Diego's prodigious talent. The city of Naples received Maradona with an outpouring of hope and celebration. 75,000 fans filled the stadium on July 5th, 1984, just to catch a glimpse of their new star. To them, Diego wasn't just a footballer, he was a beacon of hope and a promise of better days ahead, and he did not disappoint. But first, Maradona had his eyes on the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. As the captain of the Argentine squad, Diego had the weight of an entire nation's hopes resting on his shoulders.
Mi primer sueño es jugar en el Mundial.
We are in Mexico City, England versus Argentina. The atmosphere is electric as the players step onto the field, with Brian Robson leading England and Diego Maradona captaining Argentina.
One of Maradona's most iconic games ever played was in the quarter-finals of the 1986 World Cup. Argentina met hated rivals England just years after the Falklands War. Maradona's first goal, famously known as the Hand of God, became one of the most controversial events ever in football history.
I've still not forgiven Diego Maradona, so...
Maradona picks away through where there seemed to be none. And shot and it's been turned. It's Maradona's goal. England trying, but it was put in with the hand.
The referee misjudged the goal as he thought Maradona scored the goal with his head, but it wouldn't be the only talking point in the game. A mesmerising solo run from his own half, dubbed the goal of the century, shook the entire world. Argentina was through to the semi-finals. Continuing their amazing run, Maradona steered Argentina past Belgium in the semis and then to a thrilling 3-2 victory against West Germany in the finals.
I think he's dethroned Pelé. I've never seen such a wonderful player. He's got the power of the ball, but he's got all the subtlety in the world. He's fantastic. Fantastic player.
Maradona had made Argentina world champions and highlighted himself as a god amongst the Argentinian fan base. After scoring the winning penalty in a FIFA charity match, Maradona snorts cocaine on the pitch to celebrate, but the parties only seemed to inspire him. He led Napoli to their first ever Serie A in 1986-87, with celebrations echoing throughout the streets of Naples for an entire week. Under his leadership in Italy, Napoli also won the Coppa Italia in 1987, the UEFA Cup in 1989, and the Italian Super Cup in 1990. Such was his impact that in homes across Italy, newborns were named Diego and Maradona in tribute to the Argentine maestro. He also visited the Vatican, and with his first visit with the Pope, he took cocaine in his bathroom. However, with great fame came great challenges. The city was destroying him. Drugs were everywhere, he recalled. They practically brought them to me on a tray. The last years in Naples was the beginning of the end for Diego Maradona. His struggles with substance abuse became evident. He would play a match each Sunday and then party throughout the week before cleansing his body and repeating this process over and over. However, the doping commission was pretty loose, so he managed to rig the drug test to hide his cocaine abuse, although most people deep down knew about it. His behavior also changed. A lot. According to his ex-wife, he would come home late, often drunk and high, and he didn't act like the true Diego anymore. And his association with Camorra didn't help his case either. He partied with them, where he would receive protection, gifts, and the supply for his drug abuse. Although on paper this sounded good, you never get too dependent on the mob. Then, at the 1990 World Cup in Italy, Diego was embroiled in controversy when Argentina knocked out arch-rivals Brazil. After the game, the Brazilians alleged that Argentina spiked defender Branco with tranquilizers. The coaches denied it, but Maradona later joked that he encouraged the Brazilians to drink from a special bottle. And even more controversy was on Diego's path. The semi-final of the World Cup was held in Naples, and as fate would have it, it was between Argentina and hosts Italy. Argentina won on penalties, with Maradona scoring an important goal for the Argentines. Maradona went from the hero in Naples to the most hated person in all of Italy, even topping controversial politicians and celebrities. And to make matters worse, the tournament ended in defeat as Argentina lost the final to West Germany. On a January night in 1991, Diego Maradona attempted to discreetly arrange for the company of two sex workers through a contact within the Neapolitan mafia. As Maradona placed that call, he was a solitary figure, exhausted from the relentless spotlight of his fame, playing for a team he no longer wanted to play for, and deeply entangled in cocaine addiction. Yet, halfway through this 3:40 a.m. request, the woman on the other side urged Maradona to greet her son. Here's a man who's trying to escape fame and lose himself in his addictions of sex, drugs, alcohol, but in the middle of it, you've got a kid who jumps on the call to ask him about the last match. If you'd put that in an episode of The Sopranos, you'd think it was funny, but you'd think that would never happen. But it did. That's how Diego's life was. However, the call was monitored by the authorities, which was subsequently utilized as proof to level charges against the midfield maestro for cocaine possession and distribution. To make it even worse, after a Serie A game 3 months later, a failed drug test for cocaine resulted in a 15-month ban, marking the beginning of the end of his time in Napoli. He flees Naples and travels back to Buenos Aires. He left quietly and straight away, and nobody noticed it. But he does not stay there for long. He decided to travel to Colombia for a kickabout with cocaine kingpin Pablo Escobar at his prison compound, La Catedral. When he eventually traveled back to Argentina, the police raided his friend's apartment who were hosting a party and busted him for drug possession. With law enforcement escorting a tearful Maradona away, he had 1.5 grams of cocaine in his pocket. Upon his arrival in Naples, he was lively, bearing a grand smile. But upon departure, he was shattered from wounds, partly self-inflicted. Everything is going downhill for the Argentinian maestro, and he eventually ends up at the Argentine side Newell's Old Boys, where he barely plays. He parties, gains weight, and takes a lot of drugs. But with the 1994 World Cup on the horizon, the Argentinian fans demanded him to be recalled to the squad. Protests ran the streets, and several media companies decided to camp out on Maradona's front lawn to question him about his potential comeback. There are excited gasps when he appears at the front door, but that soon turns to terror. Diego pulls out an air rifle and opens fire on the press camp, resulting in the wounding of 4 reporters.
Maradona seemed more likely to spend the summer in prison than playing the World Cup.
But he jets off to the World Cup anyways. In the 1994 World Cup, hope soared as Maradona appeared rejuvenated. He was back to his best form and the hunger in his eyes was stronger than ever. This was his comeback, and his statement to the world after the nightmare he had gone through in the previous 3 years. The Argentina squad was also stronger than ever. The chemistry, the way they played and dominated games was nothing to shy away from. They were real contenders for the World Cup, yet again. But this buzz wouldn't last long. After scoring against Greece, his celebration caught suspicion within the officials. His nostrils were flaring and his eyes were bulging, practically frothing at the mouth. Therefore, after a fantastic display against Nigeria in the second match of the group stage, Maradona was led off the field by a nurse. He looked happy and ecstatic as he was finally back to his best. But things took a different turn than expected. They called him in for a drug test that revealed ephedrine, a banned substance, essentially leading to his expulsion from the tournament.
Analysis of the urine sample have proved to be positive. The player Diego Maradona of the Argentinian national team has therefore violated the provisions of the doping control regulations in the match Argentina-Nigeria.
This not only ended Maradona's World Cup journey, but also marked a significant public fall from grace. The image of a disgraced Maradona, once the epitome of football genius, was a stark contrast to the hero who lifted the trophy 8 years prior.
¿Te drogaste? No, juro por mi hija que no me drogué. No, pero le prometí a mi mujer que no iba a llorar. Y le prometí a mis hijas, por sobre todas las cosas, que no pude hablar. Pero lo único que quiero que quede claro a los argentinos que no me drogué, que no corrí por la droga, corrí por el corazón y por la camiseta. Nada más. No quiero dramatizar, pero créeme que me cortaron las piernas. I was, I am, and I always will be a drug addict.
In a candid confession in 1996, Diego admitted that he would always be a drug addict. You have to wake up and say, "Today I'm going to continue my fight against the hell of drugs." Only that way can you fight and try to recover. Maradona retired on October 25, 1997, and played his last game for Boca Juniors against their rivals River Plate, a match that ended in a 2-1 victory.
El fútbol es el deporte más lindo y más sano del mundo. Eso no le quepa la menor duda a nadie.
And post-retirement, Maradona's battle with obesity became apparent. The athletic physique that had once darted across football fields with ease now struggled with the excess weight. His heart problems were another concern, culminating in a severe heart attack in 2004 that served as a grim reminder of his mortality. In 2005, following his heart attack, Maradona underwent gastric bypass surgery in a bid to control his obesity. This was a turning point in his health journey, showing a semblance of hope and a step towards a healthier life. Maradona also had a feud with Pelé, which spanned several years. They publicly took jabs at each other on various topics ranging from play styles to personal attacks, including one where Diego baselessly claimed the Brazilian shagged his male fitness coach. Another notable incident occurred during the FIFA Player of the Century award, where Pelé won the pundits' vote and Maradona won the public's vote. Maradona reportedly refused to share the award with Pelé and stormed out of the venue after picking up his award. Their banter also extended to playful jabs, as Maradona questioned Pelé's goal total of 1,281 by asking, "Who did you score them against? Your nephews in the backyard?" Despite the long-standing feud, the two legends eventually reconciled and embraced, putting their differences aside. Even though the last years had been bad for him, Diego Maradona, an almost completely inexperienced trainer, had the unlikely opportunity to coach his beloved Argentina national team at the World Cup in 2010. The decision was met with disbelief throughout the footballing world and even among a lot of Argentina fans. They were prepared to love him as a player, but could someone whose behavior could be described as erratic actually lead the powerful national team to success? Well, in the end, despite the talent of the Argentina team, the answer was a resounding no. Maradona had overseen a typically unpredictable qualifying campaign, which saw the team suffer heavy defeats to the mighty Brazil and Bolivia. Eventually, in the preliminary rounds, the crucial games were won. However, journalists were not impressed by Diego's effort to just barely scraping a World Cup qualification, in which Diego responded with the following.
Y le agradezco a mis jugadores y le agradezco al pueblo argentino. Nada más que a ellos. Los otros, tengo que repetir, que la sigan chupando. Vos también, Pazman. Vos también la tenés adentro.
On top of this, before naming his surprising final squad to take to the tournament in South Africa, Diego managed to run over a cameraman's leg in his car. And the 2010 World Cup tournament in South Africa proved that greatness on the field does not necessarily translate to greatness off it. Well, except his press conferences.
But if he was strangely friendly to the media, it was nothing compared to the affection he showed his players.
Are you naturally affectionate with everybody?
The Spanish translators are going, "He's calling you gay! He's calling you gay! What do you say to him?"
Is it something that you learned as a player?
To fans, it seemed inconceivable that the team could lose with the natural heir to Maradona's throne on the team. Messi was heavily guarded by the Germans though, and while he made many assists, he scored no goals in the tournament. But even Maradona himself doubted his own coaching ability. It was much easier being a player. I only thought about getting the ball and enjoying myself. After calls by many for Maradona to step down as coach, the Argentinian Football Federation chief Julio Grondona refused to fire him, saying, "The decision depends on Maradona. The only person in Argentina who can do whatever he wants is Diego. After that disastrous 2010 World Cup, Maradona did leave the management of the national team a few weeks later and went on to manage a string of second-rate teams. Diego Maradona often talked about a higher power, saying his incredible football skills were a gift from above. He famously said, "I believe in God thanks to football," and when life threw challenges at him, Maradona turned to his faith for strength. Ali bin Nasser was the referee who officiated the game when Maradona scored the Hand of God goal. And on August 17, 2015, Maradona travelled to Tunisia to meet him. And in a gesture of respect, Diego presented a signed Argentina jersey to bin Nasser, who he referred to as an eternal friend. When asked why he let the goal stay, Ali claimed his decision to award the goal was influenced by Dochev, the linesman. "I was waiting for Dochev to give me a hint of what exactly happened, but he didn't signal for a handball."
It was your hand or the hand of God?
Sí, no. Fue mi mano.
Maradona and Diego. Maradona, the world knows. The world never forget.
Diego Maradona was my idol growing up. He was a person that I was always in the football family, but he was the player on the world stage.
Yet he was able to manipulate the ball a bit like Messi does now, but without the protection of the laws, without the beautiful pitches they have now, and he was still able to produce some of the most magical moments that we'll always remember.
Diego Armando Maradona was one of the best ever, and this is a very, very sad day, a very sad moment for world football. He was a genius. He was a genius on the field. Obviously, he had many problems off the field afterwards, and even during his career. But he was, for me, I mean, I admired him so often. He was, for me, an artist. He was somebody that did things that nobody else could do.
The man of joy and the pleasure and his commitment for the world football. He made the world football better.